Hi traders, in this video we're going to be discussing pound yen. So welcome to the charts. My name is John Kibler, head currency analyst at Blueberry Markets, and in this video I'm going to take you through the Great British Pound versus the Japanese yen. And why are we looking at this market in particular? Well, price rallied over 700 pips last week, and it was down to some fundamental factors which could continue, and if they do continue we could see the price of pound yen head much higher. Now, the Bank of England Governor Bailey recently came out and said that interest rates could be as high as 5.75% in the UK by the end of this year. Now, that sent some shockwaves in the markets, especially for those pound traders, as they then use that as fuel to buy the pound, and pound strengthened. Now, the current interest rates in the UK are 4.5%. This week we actually have a Bank of England rate announcement which should see the rates move up to 4.75%. But some people are thinking now that, are the Bank of England going to be a bit more aggressive in that rate hike? Because if the Bank of England Governor Bailey is thinking about seeing rates at 5.75%, why don't they just go aggressive now and move rates a little bit more aggressively? That could mean that we're going to see rates up at 5% rather than the 4.75%. Now, I think if they do that, that is a very hawkish view for the pound, and the strength of the pound could continue. On the flip side of that, you've got the Japanese yen, and despite the devaluation of the Japanese yen at the moment and the inflation pressures over there, they are willing to keep their interest rates super low and keep that ultra loose monetary policy. Now, that's going to continue to devalue the yen, and that's why we're seeing this huge move across the board on those yen pairs, and not only on pound yen but on other crosses as well, like Aussie yen, CAD yen, Euro yen and the likes. So I'm going to focus on pound yen today. Let's have a little breakdown of this from a technical point of view now, and you can see that price has traded through a really important level. So if I actually just zoom out on the charts, we've broken through the 176 area, and we didn't really take much notice of it, to be honest. Price smashed straight through it, and that was these lows that formed all the way back in 2015. And so I've got this one pinned in as the 19th of April 2015. So price has ignored a very historical level there, and we've traded through it. Now, the next point of interest we can potentially consider is this area up here where we saw an aggressive sell-off coming into the past. And again, that high has formed around about the 15th of November 2015, and it's around about the 188 handle. Now, if we look at where price is at the moment, we're trading around about the 181s. So that could mean that price still has another 600 plus pips to go for pound yen, which makes this a really interesting market for us to try and potentially look at. And traders that are looking into specific markets, maybe looking at this one thinking this is a really good opportunity to look for further upside in the price of pound yen. Now, if I was to go down into the daily time frame, we're not really getting much information here because prices move so aggressively. What we tend to see is a couple of days of pause. Now, the reason why we could have a couple of days of pause as well is because there's no real high impact data around until Wednesday, where we actually see UK CPI figures come out. So we may actually just move a little bit sideways until price continues to push higher. Now, if we go to our lower time frames, I've added my indicators on here. You can see that I've got the 20 moving average, the 50 moving average. This is just so visually we can see that the market is in that upward trend, but we can clearly see it's in a very strong upward move. Now, to capitalize on this, traders often look for areas for the market to pull back into. Now, I'm looking at this, and the only way I would really see an opportunity is if price was to pull back down towards the 179 spot 50 handle. Now, that 179 spot 50 is where this high formed last week. So if price was to come back into that area, we'd have an intersection with the 20 and the 50 moving average as well. So it adds a little bit of confluence to a potential opportunity there. If we were to go lower though, and the market was to continue high, you can see that we're kind of forming a little bit of a consolidation pattern after a rally. So what we can see here is that price has rallied from those previous lows, or you can see we've got this upward trend here. Price has rallied from those lows and we're kind of going sideways. We've come into previous lows and we're starting to see buyers coming back into the market essentially. Now that doesn't mean that price isn't going to come all the way back down to our level of interest. It's just showing us that maybe the strength of the pound versus the yen is that strong that we may not actually see any kind of pullback. Now I think in cases like this we still need to be pretty wary because of how aggressive price has moved recently. If anything, I'd be a little bit conservative and I'd probably wait for price to actually break through the highs here at the 182.14 before looking for further longs, just because it shows me that buying momentum has returned back to the markets. Because if we actually look at our averages as well, you can see that they're no longer pointing to the upside, they're actually starting to curl over slightly. That could lead to that consolidation further. We could see the 20 and the 50 potentially join up, and then maybe we see that continuation phase. Now above that sort of 179.50 we also have this kind of area here, which is the 180.50, where you can see these minor highs on the hourly chart. Again, this is going to come down to personal preference, but that is another area of potential support in the market from this lower time frame perspective. I quite like looking at the 4-hour time frame here. I like the idea of price giving us a larger term pullback. It's just whether we actually get that on or not in these current market conditions. So, you know, if that risk on sentiment is going to continue as well, we would likely see other things happen. So we actually talked about the VIX index a while ago, and you can see that the VIX has dropped significantly. So volatility index is moving lower. What does that tell us about the market? It tells us that the market is more in a risk on mode than risk off. And you know, if that started to change and it started to move higher, then the yen would probably start to strengthen again, but we're not seeing that at the moment. So just something to consider there. But pound yen, definitely one to watch going into this week, especially with all the announcements surrounding the Bank of England. Let's see how this one performs, and I'll speak to you in the next video.